Hey drummers, how you doing? It's Rob Litton here from drumstheword.com and welcome to this free full song lesson. Today I'm going to be showing you how to play the song, the epic song, Still of the Night by Whitesnake, drums by Aynsley Dunbar. And this really is Whitesnake's Stairway to Heaven. This has Led Zeppelin written all over it. Ainsley's drumming is definitely influenced by John Bonham, so we've got loads of little licks that appear that are definitely very Bonham. So this was a lot of fun. I didn't realise that this song would be quite as Led Zeppelin-y as I thought it would be. I've got all 5 pages of the charts, a 6-minute song. I've got all 5 pages fully transcribed for you, and so you can download all 5 pages for free from my website. You'll find the link beneath this video. So have that printed out in front of you as we go through this together. So we start off with the tempo is 101 BPM, and we get our first stab. The band comes in on the and the of beat 4. So that's important to understand. We're coming in on the upbeat of beat 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and and it comes with the crash cymbal. 1, 2, 3, 4 and And I like to use 2 different crash cymbals if you've got 2 crash cymbals for this beginning bit. But then later on he starts to choke it, so you just use the 1 crash cymbal as we'll see in a second. So after that pickup note, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 2. What Aynsley does, I believe he's playing with his hi-hat foot. He could be just hitting it with his right hand. It doesn't really matter what you do, but it's really just to keep the rest of the band in time. He's stepping the hi-hat on beats 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the next bar there. The next bar after that, continue with the hi-hat stabs. Well, the stepping of the hi-hat. 1, 2, 3, 4 and we get the and there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. So make sure again you're feeling it on the upbeat because it is. Then the last bar of that line of the intro. 1, 2, 3, 4 and he then starts to choke it. So that little abbreviation above the second crash cymbal is a choked crash cymbal. 1, 2, 3, 4 and just simply go to grab it with your other hand. So that hi-hat foot is being stepped, maintained all the way through here. We go to the next line and that continues. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. The last bar we get this drum fill, very Bonham. They reference loads of songs with the melodic part of it, but also the drums. This reminds me of a Bonham lead. We get 1, 2, 3, 4 E and 4 E and coming in on the E of beat 4. 4 E and 1. So the E of beat 4 just after beat 4, just after that hi-hat foot is stepped. 1, 2, 3, 4 E and 1. And then we're into our first groove, which I've called bridge 1. We're on a loose hi-hat. Very, very simple to start off with. We're just simply playing 1, 2, 3, 4. Second bar, 1, 2, 3, 4. He does this a lot. He uses the crash cymbals. If you've got 2, great. If you only got 1, don't worry about it. Just use the 1 crash. But we get 3, 4. Next line, next bar, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the last bar he does exactly the same as bar 2, but he plays the bass drum underneath it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean the bass drum under beat 4 there with the snare drum 4. You could leave that out, but it's on the recording, so I thought I'd include it. Then to verse 1, we go back to our sort of intro groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 2, 3, 4. The last bar of that line, verse 1, Aynsley plays 1, 2, and then between 2 different toms, it's quite hard to hear it, but you can, if you listen carefully, you can hear it's between 2 different toms. 3 E and then 4 E and So just right, left, right, left, right, left, but 3 E and 4 E and Again, maintain that E and on the snare drum, a sort of signature fill for the beginning of the song. 3 E and 4 E and 1. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4 E and 1. And then we're into what I've called bridge 2, loose hi-hat. First 3 bars very similar to bridge 1 in our setup. The last bar though has this Bonham triplet lick, which a lot of drummers use, including John Bonham. We get 1, 2, 3 and 4. And the lick there is just simply right, left, right, bass drum. No, it's the fuddle-a-dump. I call it the fuddle-a-dump. It's got many names. There's many different types of Bonham triplets as well. This is what we're going to see later on. There's another type of Bonham triplet, but I recognise this as a kind of one of Bonham's triplet ideas. That's when I first heard about it anyway. So we get 1, 2, 3 and a 4. And it's that bass drum comes down with the closed hi-hat and 4, because that hi-hat needs to stop ringing. It doesn't have to, but that's what Aynsley does on the recording. 1, 2, 3 and a 4. 1, 2, 3 and a 4. So we get from the end of beat 3 and 4. And make sure you land on the feet on beat 4. That'll keep you in time. So then we go on to riff 1. And back to our standard groove. Very, very basic. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1. And then we start to introduce these little pushes with the bass drum. 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1. So the of beat 4. 4E and a 1. 4E and a 1. Next 2 bars, standard stuff, but the drum fill at the end there. 1, 2, 3 and a 4E and a. So starting on the and of beat 3 and a 4E and a. The hi-hat closes on beat 4, but you can close it on beat 1 of the next bar. It doesn't really matter. 1, 2, 3 and a 4E and a 1. That's how Aynsley plays it. And then we go into what I called the first chorus, chorus 1. Up on the right cymbal, he's just simply playing quarter notes. You could play eighth notes, but that's not what I'm hearing on the recordings, just quarter notes. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's sort of near the bell, but not quite on it. You can play around with your positioning, but sort of aim sort of near the bell, but not quite on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1. We get the a 1 there, little push into bar 3. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, if you like, 2 different crash cymbals. Beat 4 is rested. The next bar is just a bar of 4. You hear Aynsley play the hi-hat very quietly on beat 3. 1, 2, 3 with his foot. I just include it because it's on the recording. You don't have to play that. That's just him closing his hi-hat. And then notice this, the very last bar there is a bar of 2/4, so it contains 2 beats rather than 4 beats. So you can think of those 2 bars, the last 2 bars, as a bar of 6/4, 4 and 2, or as I've written it, 4 and 2. So up to you, but it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Then we're into our next section, which is going to be riff 2. So before we move on to the second page, let me play for you the whole of page 1 up to speed so you can hear just my drums without the microphone on. Here we go. So page 2, a riff 2, and we get this really cool lick again, very Bonham-y, very Led Zeppelin-y. He's used a similar idea in other songs. But the important thing to note is that we're coming in on the E of beat 1, not beat 1. This is what throws a lot of people off, I'm sure, when they're playing along to this, trying to keep in time. It's the E of beat 1, just after beat 1, not on it. And if you play just after it, you'll stay in time with the rest of the band. So slowly, the lick is this. 1 E and a 2 E. That's the first part. 1 E and a 2 E and 1 E and a 2 E. Then it just simply repeats from the of beat 2. 3 E and where it then closes on beat 4. The hi-hat closes on beat 4. just afterwards. So it's one lick played twice. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Second bar exactly the same except the last hi-hat note is a crash cymbal. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1. Then we're into our next bar. So understand those last notes are on the upbeat as well, on the of beat 3 each time. So you've got to be aware of that so you come down on beat 1 correctly. So let's play those two bars together slowly. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1. I'll play this up to speed for you in a moment. So those last two bars there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 and a 1. Simple as that. And at the end there, drum fill. Into bridge 3, back to loose hi-hats, and I think he plays a second crash cymbal on beat 2, because I don't hear the hi-hat on beat 2. I think he plays 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1. Little push into beat 1 of the second bar. I won't waste your time with those other bars apart from bar 4. 1, 2, a 3, 4. Again, those crash cymbals on 3 and 4 there. Going into verse 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So verse 2, back to our intro groove, and we get the 1, 2, 3, 4 and up in bar 2. Bar 4, 1, 2, and then he plays this rather simple. It gets a triplet idea, but to play between the hands. The bass drum isn't included as part of the lick. It comes down. Bass drum comes down on beat 3, but you can hardly hear it. Basically, without that bass drum, he's playing 3 to and 4 and 1. So rather simple really compared to, which takes a little bit of practice to get your limbs separated, but this one is just, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and a 1. Next line, riff 3, I won't waste your time, I'll go straight to bar 4, which is 1, 2, 3 and a 4 E and a, we've done that lick already, hi-hat goes on beat 4. And then we're into chorus 2. Aynsley changed the drum beat, bass drum a little bit. We get and 1 at the end of each bar there. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. Ends with and 1. The last bar there into, and you can see I've written above there, note cymbal wash. So we go and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. The wash goes over 2 bars, and then we go into this break next. But before we do that, let me play for you now riff 2, bridge 3, verse 2, riff 3, chorus 2, basically the first half of the page, up to speed. Here we go. So then we go on to the break. Again, this is very, very Led Zeppelin-y. So he starts to step the hi-hat on eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. When I first saw this, I thought this is going to be easy. But actually, it's rather tricky to play these bells, the bells of cymbals, on the upbeats of the 16th, the E's and the U's, and get them in the same place. Now, Aynsley would have improvised this, or whatever drummer was playing with Whitesnake afterwards, would have improvised this section. They're not playing all these notes in the same place, so please don't think you have to you have to play this note for note with all the bells in exactly where I've shown you. I've transcribed it exactly for you where he does actually play them, but don't think you have to. You can improvise with this. If I was playing this section, I would be improvising with this myself. But I can show you some of the bars. I won't go through all of them because it's just a case of seeing where the bells are. And he uses different crash cymbal bells. These aren't particularly good on these electric kits, but the bell of the ride cymbal, I can cause that effect. So I'm going to be using just the bell of the ride cymbal. But understand that Aynsley is playing around with different bells on the crash cymbals, perhaps on the hi-hat even. No, not the hi-hat because he's stepping that, but the bells of the crash and ride. So simply first bar 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the second bar 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and It's playing it up in between the hi-hat stepped hi-hat foot. 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and 1. On it goes, the fourth bar, 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1. That's the hardest bit, playing 4 in a row I found. 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1. It's not hard, it's hard to stay in time. That's what to make it sound good, to make it sound like the upbeat 16th notes. So the first line, for example, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1. Actually, that was pretty good, but sometimes I faltered and it didn't go quite in time and it sounded nasty. But try it yourself. You might find this quite tricky. For example, when we go to the second line, bar 3 there, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and 1. Just 3 upbeats starting on the of beat 3. And then he really starts to improvise with it. Line 3, 1 and so the of beat 1. Bar 2, the E of 1, 1 E and then bar 3, 1 E and then bar 4, 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1. So let's go on to the second page. Yes, I just want to make sure that, let me just double check. I'm not sure if I've just played the last section for you. I think I have. Sorry, forgive me, I'm going to continue now. That's the point I would usually have stopped and double check the video. But no, I've shown you that previous section. Let's go to page 3. So page 3 just continues with more improvisation. It's a bit of a nightmare to read it. You've got to concentrate if you want to play all these bells in exactly the same place Aynsley does. But again, last time I mentioned it, you don't have to. So I won't go through all these bars. They're just so random. There's a repeating theme for most of them where we get 1 E and, 4 E and or 3 E and 4 E and at the end of every couple of bars. But then it's just random stuff like line 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and I missed it, 1 and 2 and So again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then we go into, let's go straight to line 4 of that break. You can see the bar before, line 3, bar 4, we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And we get this 4 and 1 on the bass drum. So be aware the bass drum's starting to come in now. So from line 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and then for the only time he does it, he plays a bell on actual 8th note, on the and a 2 for that second bar. But notice that every 2 bars we get the 1 occurring with the bass drum. So straight to the last line, we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. We play a flam on beat 1 there. 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and back up to the bell for the E's of E and E's of beat 3 and 4 with the 1 at the ends. So 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1. So the 1 is the last note there, not the bell. A 1 on the bass drum, not the bell. And then continues 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that flam on beat 1 of bar 4. And I've written above note cymbal wash. So this was overdubbed. The cymbal wash was probably overdubbed because you get the flam in between. Well, occurring at the same time as the wash. So either the flam was added or the wash was added afterwards. So you can't do both. So you can either play a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or you could play a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and play a wash instead. It's up to you. So let me go into what I've called the instrumental. We're playing on the hi-hat. Now, it sounds like he's just maintaining, he's actually playing this groove with his hi-hat foot stepping. I'm not sure quite how they did that, because it sounds like he's not striking the hi-hat with his stick. It sounds like he's stepping it. But I'm 100% sure he would have played it with the stick, but it does sound very similar, like the hi-hat has just continued into this section. So you could try that. You could play 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's fine, but if I was playing this, I'd play it on the hi-hat like I think Aynsley's doing. So that first bar there, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1. We get these pushes at the end of each of the bars. Bar 4 has 1 and 2, a 3, 4, a 1, a push in the middle as well as the end of the bar. Line 2 continues but the first 3 bars with the push at the end. And then bar 4, we get 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4. 1 and 2, a 3 and a 4. Lovely little variation on the bass drum there. 1, 2, a 3 and a 4. 1, 2, a 3 and a 4. So before we move on to the next line, let's go back. I'm going to play for you the last 2 lines of the break, because they're all very similar to each other. So the last 2 lines of the break and then the first 2 lines of the instrumental section as well, up to speed. So line 3 continues. Aynsley simplifies the drum beat for the first 2 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, simply that. Bar 3 has the push, bar 4 has the push. Then the last line there starts with the crash cymbal again. We've got the push at the end of bar 2. And then bar 4 has this drum fill. 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a. So I've written it as the high tom, but you could use the medium tom instead. The basic, the tricky part is the 4 E and a. You could play 4 E and a. You could play all 3 notes on 1 tom, or 4 E and a, as he does later on. But I'm pretty sure I'm hearing 2 different pitches there. So I think he plays 4 E and a. But it really doesn't matter if you play 4 E and a, or 4 E and a, or 4 E and a. Play around with it. But in context, 1 and 2 and 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1. And the bass drum is pumping 8 notes underneath. 3 and 4 and. So 1, 2, 3 and a 4 E and a 1. So let's go on to the next page. Page 4. And the guitar solo. We won't go through each of the bars here because we've gone over these. Look out for the pushes. Let's go straight to bar 4 though, which has a really cool Bonham kind of lick in it. Groove. He plays 1 and 2 and a 3 E and a 4, a 1. Those 3 bass drums in a row are falling in between the hi-hats. 1, 2, a 3 E and a 4, a 1. 1, 2, a 3 E and a 4, a 1, 2, a 3 E and a 4, a 1. Lots of fun to play that. Next line, go straight to bar 4. 1, 2, 3 E, a 4, and it's just oozing John Bonham this. 3 E, a 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3 E, a 4, and 1. 3 E, a 4, and. Next line, bar 2, we get this little push again. 1, 2, a 3, and 4, and 1. 1, 2, a 3, and 4, and that bass drum on the of 2 there falling in between the hi-hats. Bar 4 of that line, 1 E and 2, 3E, a 4 and a 1. And he plays 3 bass drums in a row, which is actually quite tricky to play. 1E and 2, 3E, a 4 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1. 1E, 2, 3E, a 4 and a 1. That was quite clean that time. So you could just play and 1 if you can't get your bass drum foot to play 3 notes. He's not using double bass drum because he's playing on the closed hi-hats. So it's definitely played with 1 foot, so quite tricky that. Next line then, so go straight to bar 3 where we get 1, 2, 3E. Again, the 3E occurring idea. Then the last bar, 1E and 2 and 3E and a 4E and a. Simple as that. 8/16 notes with the bass drum playing 3 and 4. 1E and 2 and 3E and a 4E and a 1. So now let's play the whole of the guitar solo, all 4 pages up to speed. So on to bridge 4, very, very basic stuff we've talked about already. Verse 3, back to our intro groove with the stepping of the hi-hat on beats 2 and 4. The lick at the end though of that line, 1, 2, 3 and a 4. And it could be and 4 and 4. It's another one of those triplets, and to 4, but I think he plays it just between the toms again. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But if you want to challenge yourself, a bit more fun perhaps, change it around. 1, 2, 3 and 4. If you really like playing that lick as much as I do. Then to riff 4, back to the same idea we had from the previous section that this lick occurs in. 1E and a 2, 1E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4 and. And the same for the second bar, except it ends with a crash cymbal again on the of beat 3. Then bar 4, 1, 2, 3 and a 4E and a. We're coming on the E of beat 3 there. 3E and a 4E and a. And the hi-hat closes on beat 4 again. 1, 2, 3 and a 4E and a 1. Into then chorus 3. And I believe, I haven't notated it here because it's not crucial to the song, but I believe Aynsley is stepping hi-hats at this point. So he's only playing quarter notes on the ride cymbal, but he's stepping the hi-hat underneath on 8th notes. So if you want to replicate it exactly, then play this section with the stepping of the hi-hats. But you could just play 1, 2, 3, 4, or even 1, 2, 3, 4. Where I'm just accenting the downbeat a bit, but then just playing the 8th notes in between on the another area of the cymbal, the ride cymbal, to create a less of so you just hear the quarter notes basically. Using that old molar whip technique, which one day I will get around to doing a video for. So just 3 bars there of groove, and then the last bar, again a bar of 2, 1, 2, before we then go into perhaps your favourite part, certainly was for me, the drum solo. This is just Bonham all over again, and it's a really simple idea. Really, it's just played with precision and at a reasonable tempo. So it looks complicated, but when you work out what the hands are doing, it's not that complicated. Technically, maybe, but no, not to read it, not to actually. Let me just play it for you. So what he's doing, he's playing right hand on the floor tom, and his left hand's alternating between the high tom and the snare drum. 1E. 1E and 1E and. Played through 16th notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3. Then from beat 3 he plays 3 E and it's just a grouping of 3 still, but it's just he plays here instead of. And then the from beat 4 he plays this. He changes to groups of 2, 4 E and 4 E and So that bar slowly. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Then we go into 16th note triplets again, and it's another grouping of 3, very, very famous. This is probably what most people think of as the Bonham triplets. He plays snare drum and high tom. It doesn't matter what tom you use for your left hand. You could be playing left, right. It doesn't really matter. But I think he's playing this right, left, because that's how most drummers would play it. Right, left foot, right, left foot. But we're counting it. The important thing is to play in time. 1 and 2 and. So each of those 8th notes has a grouping of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So that's the lick basically, 1 and 2 and 3 and. Simple as that, but play cleanly. But notice beat 4, he comes up to the high tom, the one tom you're using to play both notes on that tom. 4 and then back to and, 4 to and to, if you want to count it properly, I guess. So let me put it in context. Let me play for you that line. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Simple as that. It's just playing it smoothly. Then we go into the chorus 3. But before we do, let me play that up to speed for you. So back to chorus 3, the beginning. And I've got to change the number on that. I've just suddenly noticed I've numbered them wrong. I'll remember at the end. So yeah, back to chorus 3 at the bottom of page 4. Into the drum solo, into a little bit of the next chorus. You'll see chorus 4. Up to speed. Here we go. So chorus 4, or our outro really, he's up on the ride cymbal, and we get 1, and it's basically playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The cool thing is going from that drum solo into the first bar of the chorus, we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 4, and 1. So you come out of it like that. So back to the first bar, we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Second bar comes down with the bass drum as well. 1, 2, and a little pusher on the of beat 1, not and. Again, you could put accidentally, you could play the and there, but Aynsley doesn't for whatever reason for that bar. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Bar 3 is the same as bar 1. Bar 4 though, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Those two toms, floor tom and snare drum. 4 and. Very simple drum fill. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And yeah, it goes into the next line with just the crash cymbal on beat 1. He doesn't start the lines with the snare drum. He starts each line with just the crash cymbal and bass drum from the second line onwards. So the second line, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and on it goes then with 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Say for bar 3, bar 4, 1 and 2 and little surprise snare drum there. 1 and 2 and then starting on your highest tom, 3 E and 4 E and. I've written this to 3 toms, but I believe actually on the recording technically Aynsley's using 4 toms because I hear it go down the toms like. So if you've got 4 toms, great. If you've only got 3 toms, just do 3 E and 4 E and as I've written on the chart because that's how many drums most people have, toms. So the bass drum underneath it as well, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Bass is for playing 3 and 4 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Into line 3, starts with the crash cymbal its own. 1, a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and. On it goes for bars 2 and 3, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and then bar 4, 1 and a 2 and again, exactly starting that drum fill in exactly the same place. It's exactly the same drum fill, it's just orchestrated differently. 3 and then I believe it just plays it on one tom, as I mentioned earlier on, 4 and Remember we had that 4 and it's the same idea, it's just on the one tom, 4 and 1, 4 and 1 with the bass drum underneath. So 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. So before we go on, let's play the first 3 lines of chorus 4 up to speed. So down to line 4, at this point, Aynsley starts to add more bass drums. So to the end of the bar, we get 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and bar 3 just has the one bass drum on the and a 4. And then bar 4 has this really cool rhythm which goes with the rest of the band. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a. The bass drum is playing on 1 and, Aynsley plays it there, it's not important, you can leave that out, but it's on the recording. He plays 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a. Really cool rhythm that goes across the bar. So bars 3 and 4, good idea perhaps would be to loop it. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a 1. Into line 5. And it's just bass drum gallops all the way through. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2. Notice he's not crashing every bar now. That line, we don't get crashes at the beginning of bars 2 and 3. Bar 4 though is exactly the same drum fill as above. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a. Except there's one stray bass drum that falls in on the and a beat 1. That's not important, but it's there on the recording. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a. Then on to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, line 6. This is cool. He then changes it again, so you can see he's increasing the complexity. We get 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 E and a, 4 E and a, because then from then on, bars 2 and 3, he's then playing the bass drums in between each of the ride cymbals and playing the snare drum still on the downbeats. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2. So all the bass drums falling in between the right hands. That's what he plays for bars 2 and 3. Then bar 4 we have that same signature drum fill. But this is the cool bit. He puts a little bass drum push before the second grouping and before the third grouping. So we get 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Exactly the same rhythm, except we're just putting that bass drum note in 1/16th note before each of those groupings of 4. So bars 3 and 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Bit tricky to count, but you can sort of feel it instead. That's a little bit sloppy, but you can sort of feel it pushing in to each of the grouping of 4 rather than have to count it. Up to you. Then, second to last line, we get this coming out of that 4 E and he plays a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2. Little surprise snare drum on the E of beat 1 there. 1 E and a 2 E, 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2. And then from beat 2 it just continues, 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So bar 1 there, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. Bars 2 and 3 continues that idea. Bar 4 is exactly the same as the line above it. The last line starts with 1 and a 2 E, 3 E, 4 E, and then continues from beat 2 with the bass drum idea. Bars 2 and 3 the same. The last bar, second to last bar, exactly the same as the line above it. And it ends with simply a crash cymbal. And I don't think the cymbal's actually choked, it's just the recording suddenly cuts off. But to replicate that, just simply choke the crash cymbal. 1. So. And the song ends like that. So finally, let me play for you the last 4 lines of that final chorus up to speed. Phew! So that was a lot of stuff to cover in one lesson. I hope you enjoyed. That was a lot of fun for me. I didn't realise that Whitesnake were so obviously influenced by Led Zeppelin, but like I said at the beginning of the lesson, it's just oozing Bonham. There's so many references to Zeppelin stuff throughout this song, so very cool. Don't forget to download all 5 pages of this drum chart. Again, the link is beneath this video. And then while you're at my website, you might want to consider signing up to become an online member. And what I currently offer for $97 is a full year's online access to every single full video song lesson I've ever transcribed and recorded. Just like this lesson, I take you through every single bar, you get the fully transcribed PDF drum chart, and I've got almost 450 famous and popular songs on the website already, including a couple of other Whitesnake lessons and some Led Zeppelin stuff, loads of Led Zeppelin stuff, but like I say, over almost 450 famous and popular songs. As a thank you for signing up, I'll give you access to even more stuff. I'll give you loads of videos teaching you many famous drum beats, fills and solos. I'll give you 3 ebooks I've written over the years containing hundreds more famous beats, fills and solos. And then over the year of your subscription, you also gain instant online access to all the new material that I upload for my members. And I record new lessons every week unless I'm ill or on holiday. So you've got lots of cool stuff to look forward to over the year of your subscription. But if you've got any questions about any of that, feel free to email me, rob@drumstheword.com. And until our next drum lesson together, toodle pip and happy drumming to you.